Okay, so I guess today, because all I did yesterday was watch the Olympics, I could talk about the Olympics. I don't really get the Olympics. Like, I get the whole idea that these people are competing to be like the best in the world at whatever particular sport or race or event or whatever. But I don't really get the concept because what if there's like someone better but who doesn't want to like do something? Like, I mean, who doesn't really put themselves out there and do their sport competitively? But that doesn't make any sense the way I'm saying it. But, anyways, like, there's not really a guarantee that the athletes you're getting on your team are the absolute best in your country. They are just the best in the country that have been scouted, right? So it's like, are the Olympics necessarily a accurate representation of the world's athletic talent? And then there was another bit last night about the female athlete from Saudi Arabia who does judo and who wouldn't do it unless she could use her head covering, which they didn't want to do because she might get choked by the scarf, so they had to modify a head covering and give her like sort of like what I guess looked like a swim cap that she wore. Kudos to Saudi Arabia for being forced into providing female athletes, 2 of them this year, for the first time ever. But it's like, obviously these women aren't, because it's not just Saudi Arabia, it was like Qatar and Afghanistan and all these different places, but in their first female competitors this year, these Olympic Games, like obviously these women are going more for the whole ideal of representing their country as women rather than being the best. But does that like detract from the Olympics? Like, I don't find, because the whole push for equality makes sense, but it's like, it's almost painful to watch when you see like the racing, for example, and there was a female athlete, female racer from Qatar who couldn't even finish her race. Like, that's, like, I realize it's definitely an outstanding encouragement for the women of her country just to see her in the Olympics and in that setting and competing for her country. But it's still kind of like, okay, we can be there, or rather, they can be there. But then just watching their performance, and yes, it's the best they can do, but it just looks so pale in comparison to the other athletes. Or, yeah, so I mean, I'm really glad that they're finally almost forcing all of participating countries have female athletes this year, and I think that's absolutely amazing. I am really, really proud that we now have females competing from everywhere, so that's good. The other thing that I don't get about the Olympics, well, it's not necessarily don't get, but it just so happens that when I watch events and I see, like, Canada, because that's obviously who I support my country, and like, I was watching the men's pair rowing yesterday, because I actually know a man who does the pair rowing, but he didn't qualify for the Olympics this year, or rather, he didn't qualify for the final race for men's rowing, so he wasn't in it. So I was watching this other Canadian pair, and they had placed silver in Beijing, and then it was one of their last years that they were going to compete in the Olympics. One of them, it was his last Olympic race ever, and he wanted to place gold. Obviously, he wanted to beat his Beijing score and just generally do better. And they came in last, and then the interview right after just seemed so intrusive. Like, I don't get that. Like, obviously you can tell they're disappointed when they don't place. So to interview them immediately afterwards and just see how upset they are that they didn't do as well as they thought they would, or that they should have, or even if they were just having an off day or whatever, because it happens. But it doesn't seem right to interview them in that raw moment when they are so disappointed in themselves and so upset and frustrated. Because, I mean, for me, I've got to be the only person in the world to say this, but I honestly end up crying watching the Olympics, so I guess that's maybe why I don't get it, because I see these people and I feel so upset that they didn't obtain their goal, that they didn't get their medal, and not just because I want Canada to have more medals, but because they show their little bit before and the athletes are talking about how important it is for them, and then they don't get it, and then they show them and they're almost crying, and it's like, oh my god. And my little Olympic talk has been way too long, but yeah, so it's sort of my take on the Olympics and my whole bit about female athletes. It didn't make any sense, but if you're in my brain, it does, because there was a point to it. But yeah, I guess that's it for now. I will see people tomorrow.